Hello there, Dragon Ball Super players. I'm Legends with Team Foe slash PPG, and I'm bringing you my Invoker decklist that I made top 8 with this weekend at the PPG Webcam Invitational with an X02 record in Swiss. Let's briefly discuss my matchups. In round 1, I took the match with a 1-0 victory over set 10 Zamasu. The matchup takes a while to get going and ultimately takes my deck 6 or 7 energy to take the victory. In a format with 50 minutes on the clock, the second game eventually just timed out. In round 2, I decidedly earned a 2-0 victory over Majin Vegeta. With Invoker having access to a large assortment of negates, it easily preys on tall, heavy swinging decks. In round 3, I matched and drew into our champion, Buin, piloting Golden Frieza. I spent the majority of game 1 trying to figure out what his deck did, but once I realized that he was intent on awakening himself at 4 life, I didn't have to conserve as many resources anymore and easily burned him down on my kill turn. During the second game, I had the advantage by seeing an early "we're in this together," but then punted the game by attacking to his 4 open energy, and then later forgetting that Tyrannical Cooler can minus a 10k battle card. Time was called at the conclusion of the second game, and we drew. In round 4, I matched into another set 10 Zamasu with a 2-0 victory. Pro Play Games has this match on their Twitch VODs at twitch.tv/ppgdbs. Subscribe to their channel to see how to play through this matchup. Finally, in round 5, I matched into Red Broly, easily my least favorite matchup. I drew all of my game 1 text during the first game while he drew poorly, and I still crumbled under his assault. In game 2, with further text available in my deck, I eked out a win. Time was called before we could begin game 3, and we walked away with a draw. Finally, in top 8, I match into VJax, a matchup I truly believe I have the edge in. However, a brutal mismanagement of my life and energy on turn 3 cost me game 1. I took game 2 in a long drawn out battle, and we began game 3 in time. Unfortunately, Invoker is a terrible deck in time, and I had to pass over the win. But enough about the event. Let's jump into the deck list. So, as usual, I am playing the Son Goku Invoker leader. This is easily the strongest Surge leader in the game, playing a really great color, and then it's also playing red. But we can quickly go over the effects, as you guys have known by now. His Activate Battle, you can pretty much like an upgraded version of Hercule. You can discard a extra card, combo gain 5k for the battle, and draw. His Awaken Surge, you tuck one red and one blue card under this leader, and you draw 3 cards, untap 1 energy, and awaken. On his Awaken side, if you have 5 or less life, you can activate Battle or Main once per turn. If you control a Universe 7 card, you may draw a card, take a peek at your opponent's hand, discard an extra card, or a battle card with 35k power or less. Alternatively, you can add up to 3 multicolor extra cards from your drop and or warp to your hand. Both of these effects are incredibly powerful. The second effect, where you can add cards, often used when you're trying to come back into the game and stabilize to turn 5. The first effect you can use if you're further ahead or you're securing your win. Now we'll move into the deck list starting with the mono blue cards. We'll start with the Tournament Power Arena. This card is obviously our best turn 1 play, and it is a must-have for the deck. Once you play this card, all of your red-blue multicolored cards lose energy exhaust, and they can just come in as if they were check lands. Alternatively, the Activate Main allows you to set up for all of your fetch cards in this deck. Well, the obvious Dimension Magic. Like I mentioned, we are playing one good color, so we are playing Dimension Magic. Dimension Magic obviously allowing us to untap 2 energy, saves us some weight to tap out on our turns. The fact that it's a sparking negate also aids us in the fact that we can tap out. We do play the full set of Sensu Beans. One of the weaknesses to Invoker is going wide against the deck. Although the deck is essentially a 15k leader on the front side, decks that punch for 20k or can combo up to 20k really often, or even to sit at 15k, can straight up beat up the deck, so we do have to have that Sensu Bean to effectively make our leader a 20k leader. Mafu Bar is a card I've been testing since the start of the format due to Green Gotenks' prevalence. It does have the effect where you can sit on top of a 6-drop and end their turn, buying you a bunch of life for over 2 turns. And there had like the niche effect where if you went first into Red Broly and you drew the Mafuba, you could effectively put it on top of their first chain, force them to find a second chain, but then that's what they did, and they just find a second chain and kill you anyway. So Mafuba is probably going to come out of this deck in the future. Moving on into our red-blue multicolor extra cards, we have 2 of Instinctive Reprisal, probably the best negate for this deck best multicolor negate in this deck. Being at 2 energy, it does play a lot earlier, especially in this aggro format. It does have the added benefit of taking out Ba from the red Broly deck, taking out a plethora of Vijek's minor cards such as their Kai, their Blocker, or their Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, to name a few. And additionally, your leader can recur this in matches where you would need an extra negate or two, such as Reboot Gohan or Majin Vegeta. Moving into combination attack, I did end up going with one in the main deck and one in the side deck, and that ultimately was a mistake. In the future, I would probably play a second in the main deck over the Mafuba. Uh, this card is definitely an MVP for the weekend. In the Red Broly matchup, it lets you bounce any of their pieces of the chain below the 6 drop. It lets you bounce the Bardock that they attack with, the Resolute. In the Vegex matchup, it lets you remove the Splintering Mind, and all for effectively 1 energy. And 0 energy if you have Invoker out. Uh, it's, I'm sure I've mentioned this in my other videos. For any of these tech multicolored red blue extra cards, I play them at 2 because I tend to want to draw 1 in the early game and cycle it with my leader to have it available in the drop area should I need to pick it up later in the game. Moving on to Phantom Fist, one of my tech cards for this weekend. I originally put it in the deck to deal with the Bardock Resolute battle card from Red Broly. Oftentimes on their turn 2, they'll resolve that card in the field and then have a Ba to defend it. On our turn, we'll often attack it with our leader. They'll block with Ba, we'll cycle a card, and then we'll have to use something more efficient to get rid of that Bardock. Phantom Fist is the perfect card for that. It'll spend your 2 energy effectively removing the Bardock, and then on your opponent's turn, untapping an entry allows you to defend your life without having to have a Beerus super combo or a Spark in Dimension Magic. Going into our super combo, we do play 4 Beerus. This is the ideal super combo for this deck for so many ways. I mean, just starting with the tags, it is a Universe 7 card, and there are variants of this deck where you can play Universe 7 Searchers. It is also a red-blue multicolor card, so you can charge in your energy. You can play it back in your energy when you get to your 6-drop play. You can use it to awaken your leader as either red or blue card. And of course, it can untap your energy while you're still sitting at 8 life. The only alternative super combo I'd consider playing over this is the Zeno super combo, mainly because it can pick up a mono blue energy and replay a different energy, even a multicolor red-blue energy if you've already tapped out for top on your turn 1 against like a VJX or Broly deck while they're pushing you while you have 1 energy. Sleepy Boy Technique, one of the worst cards I've had this weekend. It's only really live after turn 3. If say let's say you tapped out with a Vegeta or then you've had to awaken or found a way to untap, then Sleepy Boy becomes live, but then it retaps you out, forcing you in a scenario to find another Beerus or another Dimension Magic, making Sleepy Boy one of the harder cards to play with. I keep it at 2 mainly because for those matchups where I can land the Vegeta versus Red Broly if I'm going first or versus Vegex, then it does blow out the matchup if you can successfully pinpoint a Sleepy Boy. But I can't see more because I can barely even resolve 1 per game, so I do leave it at 2 to be able to cycle it with my leader right off the bat and then pick it up later when I can use it. Going into my fetch spells, I'm going to bounce around a little bit here. We do play a full set of the Catastrophic Blow, Death Beam, and Royal Condemnation package. I do understand that Royal Condemnation is largely ineffective this format until you get the Vegeta out, but its secondary fetch ability is so effective that I'm even going to consider bumping this count to 16 in the future copies of this deck, playing that new Demon Wave Piccolo from the draft box just to have more consistency and speed through the deck even faster, if you could believe it. And then to round out our extra card multicolor count, we have this We're in This Together. I can't remember the last time I used this effect to Raigeki something or clear your opponent's field of their 25k power or less battle cards. However, I do use the 1 red energy activate main to add it back to my hand a lot. This effectively guarantees I can never be hand controlled out of the game, and not to mention you can use this to set up awakenings, you can use this to set up your leader effect again, and you're just paying 1 red energy to perfectly draw a red-blue multicolor extra card. Going into the battle cards of the deck, we do of course have your standard Apex of Power. Oftentimes I use this card as just an upgraded version of Fu Shrouded in Mystery. The deck doesn't play enough actual battle cards or combo power to really kill with Apex on its final turn. Most of the time, especially in formats like these, you're limping into your turn 5. So you'll have to use the Apex of Power simply as a blanket effect so that you can set up for your true kill on turn 6. We do play only 3 Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta inspired techniques. I saw this card way too much even at 3 this weekend. All these decks are forcing you to draw through your deck so fast they keep trying to punch your life. And you'll just keep seeing dead copies Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta Inspired Technique. I'm going to consider trying to even cut this card down to 2. I hate playing this card on turn 3, because you'll have to tap out for this 3 energy card. Find a way to untap your energy, and then find a way to use the 3 mana this thing cost you somehow to get value out of it. Of course, if you do make it past turn 3 with your Vegeta on board, now your turn 4 is super simple to play, and that's where this card really shines, which is why I'm considering having it only at 2. I'd rather really just slam it down on turn 4 and leave the 1 energy up, and then I can play from there much easier. I did bump this Son Goku Rival Seeker up to 4 in today's format. We do have an aggro heavy format, and while you have a blue-red multicolor extra card in your drop area, he does become a 0 for 10k combo, making it a total of 8 0 for 10k combos in our deck. This allows us to outcombo a lot of these early game crit or pressures that a lot of players like to do. They like to set their battle cards to 20k when they push in for damage, and it's just a simple cycle extra card with my leader effect followed by a 0 for 10k to combo out of it and stay out of harm's way. His second effect has some neat tricks that a lot of players might not know. If you quickly read this, it says if you have 5 or more energy and you add 2 red-blue multicolor extra cards from your warp to your hand, that is the cost of the card. Afterwards, you can choose to play up to 1 6-drop from your hand, so you can choose not to play any 6-drop. So if your opponent wants to use God Sealing Technique, you can simply just not show them what card's going to come out, and you don't have to deal with the card, and you don't have to reveal your 6-drop, and you still have the cards that you added for protection. Alternatively, on turn 5, if you don't have a kill in your hand and you just drew absolutely dead and played poorly up until this point, you can add 2 cards of Rifle Seeker on turn 5 and just hold them for defense, whether they be Death Beams or Sleepy Boy that you warp somehow, or even Raw Condemnation. And then moving on to the 6-drop, I still do only play 2 copies of the 6-drop. I do think this card is way too heavily costed for a card you want to see in the early game. If you draw it early, you have no choice. You have one of 3 choices, really. You can charge it, you can leave it dead in your hand, or you can discard it for 10 for 1k combo, or 1 for 10k combo. Neither of these 3 choices are very good. So as a result, I leave it at 2 and I try to see only late in the game. Oftentimes, if it's a deck I only have to burn from 4 down, I'll shuffle the first copy I see back to the bottom of the deck on top of the pile so that when I eventually go through my deck, I will see it again by the time I kill you. Moving into the cooler Tyrannical Assault, this is a card attached strictly for this aggro format. It has the same effective bonuses as Instinctive Reprisal, except for the fact that it's an extra card. However, what it loses by being an extra card, it gains by being a 20k Double Strike battle card. This allows us to challenge Red Broly for game. Versus Red Broly, I generally saddle all of my burn package. I take out the Apex, I take out both 6-drops. I'm not getting to turn 5 versus that deck, so I am going to move in cards that help me kill them earlier. So the cooler grants me that capability. Additionally, the cooler also ignoring Barry becomes very relevant versus sideboard cards meant to defeat the Blue Baby deck. So we'll slide into our sideboard. As I mentioned before, I mistakenly sided a second combination attack. That should have been the main. We'll move over to this Baby Unison. This is still in here for those longer matchups, such as Zamasu or Shenron, or any kind of really more controlling matchup where I can sit back and draw. The ability to control what you draw with this +2 using your Tournament Power Arena makes this card even more valuable. And in a deck like Invoker, where you only have one main attacker in your leader, the Baby Unison gives you a second attacker to challenge Unisons or clear fields. Moving over to the best card, in my opinion, versus Red Broly, we have an Unexpected Turn. If the opponent is trying to play around on an unexpected turn, they aren't doing enough damage to kill you to begin with. And then if they play into an unexpected turn, it often blows out the game. Ideally, you'd like to hit the 5 or 6 drop with unexpected turn, or the 2 3 drops coming out from the Piccolo Unison. All Too Easy is a card I side specifically for Green Majin Vegeta or the Green Reboot Gohan. This is a card I can cycle early with my leader if I draw it as a dead card, and then later still use it as a negate, as one of my emergency negates should I not have one of the 15 in my deck. Group Leader Pilaf was a really terrible choice for this tournament. I originally chose it as a 1 energy answer to Broly. In theory, Broly would attack with they were 1 or 3 or 4 drop, and I could counter with Group Leader Pilaf removing the swap keyword skill, forcing him to start a new chain. However, that's exactly what he did. He just started a new chain and still beat my head in, despite the fact that his first chain was broken. Beerus Ball is one of the best cards in this side deck. It gives us an auto-win answer to Green Gotenks. Green Gotenks no longer can pressure this deck fast enough for it to win in the early turns, so now we almost always get to our kill turn on turn 5. By turn 5, their only answer to our burn kill turn is to have that Frieza Charismatic Villain. While they're holding that Frieza Charismatic Villain, we can just answer it with the Beerus Ball. Beerus Ball does send the Charismatic Villain straight to the drop, and they can't pop our battle cards anymore. Additionally, if played on our opponent's turn, we do get that little bean effect for 5k power if we need to. Also a nice touch, because we are multicolor leader, and we do play multicolor energy, we can just sparking this effect instead of just paying the 1 energy when we go for that kill turn versus Gotenks, making that turn even easier to complete. It does have a nice added benefit of beating out Omni, but people aren't really playing that card very much anymore. Looking further, we have two Violent Rays. Two Violent Rays are in here dedicated for Dark Broly. They do have that fringe benefit versus Red Broly should you survive to turn 3. And Violent Rays too early in the game will actually lose you the game. So say your Broly's on turn 2 and you are on 2 energy and you try to play Violent Rays. If you Violent Rays here, you won't take enough damage to refill your hand, and you're actually going to cost too many cards just by playing Violent Rays. Your opponent's still going to go up the chain and rip apart the rest of your hand, and you're left with nothing to play your turn with. So Violent Rays is one of those cards that will definitely win the matchup should you survive to your own turn 3. We'll move down to this Undying Spirit Son Gohan. This was another terrible choice for this format. I originally put it in versus Red Broly. It does have the benefits of being a mono blue card, so you can charge at turn 1 and play top. It is a 0 for 5 combo, letting you combo out of stuff. But beyond that, its effects, it does reduce its energy costs during your opponent's turn while you have a, well, actually just always, while you have a multicolored energy on the field, which we always will on turn 2. And then when you play this card, it also untaps energy, so effectively plays for 1 energy. And versus Red Broly, the theory was when they swap from the 3 to the 4 drop, before they waken, I could just bounce the 4 drop to their hand and they'd have to start their chain all over again, paying an extra energy to summon the 1 drop, hopefully, and paying another energy to go back into the 4 drop, pausing their turn. And then alternatively, it would give me a 15-game beater to try to win the game with afterwards. However, this plan never worked out the way I wanted to, and I'll probably be replacing this for a more aggro option versus Red Broly. An alternative for a more defensive, an alternative use for the card was versus VJax when they would go into their Splintering Mind play. They would pay the 1 energy from their Reluctant Reinforcements and swap into Splintering Mind, and I would use Undying Spirit Son Gohan to return it to their hand before it can attack me, effectively nullifying the opening turn. This did have the 1-2 punch versus VJax, but it never came up effectively versus Red Broly. And finally, we have the classic Topo in the sideboard for red decks. Topo is actually a terrible card right now. It gets returned by God Sealing before it can make any use. It gets beaten out by Dodoria in green. It gets absolutely nullified by Koitsukai in black decks or any decks that can splash the Koitsukai. And finally, even yellow has Tyrannical Blow to weaken out the effect of Topo, making this one of the worst negates for this format. However, in the fact that it is Topo, it is also one of the best negates for this aggro-heavy format, and finding your ability to sneak him into a play at the right time may win or, as Damascus realized, lose you the match. Well, this was ultimately my Invoker deck for this weekend. There will definitely be plenty of changes going forth for those that want to come out to PPG Miami, and I can't wait to see all of you there. A quick shout out to Team Foe for making it such a friendly environment to play in, and a shout out to PPG for hosting such a terrific webcam invitational. Have a great time.